I am that OG that knows the ins and out of the Star Wars galaxy. Expanding universe lore, I love to explore. My knowledge goes beyond that. Lucasfilm history is where I'm skilled at. Always learning, growing, always talking about what I'm knowing. There is no Star Wars woman like me, that I can guarantee.
This is where the fun begins.
Are you sure? So be it. Did you miss me?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my channel, OG Star Wars, and I'm your host, Alora Baga, and I am so happy to be with you here this morning. Blah blah blah, tongue twister already, at my expense to make you laugh. And I want to know how you guys are doing today. How is your week going? How is your week treating you? And also, what do you think about the state of Star Wars today? I'm not going to fully get into exactly what I'm thinking with you guys or about this towards you to share with you guys, but I want to know what you guys think about the state of Star Wars here today. And I will be on the spacing one-on-one interview chat with Tim tomorrow night at 7:30, or no, I'm sorry, 8:05. Well, shortly after that on his channel, Pacific Standard Time. So there we're going to get into all of that, what I'm calling source wars, and what I think about the state of Star Wars today, among other things, other pop culture, other things that we're going to discuss. So stay tuned for that. But we are talking about the here and now. So how are you guys doing? I love this glare of my glasses on the ring light. That's fun, right? So how are you guys doing? And what are you enjoying? What's in your mug? I got this Coruscant mug here. This is basically the PT, Revenge of the Sith one, basically. Has all of that. Yeah. So it's the Coruscant. Actually, it's a little bit of everything. So it's when Anakin um, was brought and just the evolution of him in the PT. So yeah. So today, what we're going to discuss is basically go back to the Vong War lore, and going into early Yuuzhan Vong incursions, and also going into their invasion. And we're going to conclude it on that with the Yuuzhan Vong lore. And then we're going to get into maybe talk a little bit more Star Wars lore. So I don't know which one we're going to start first, because there's something I want to address here in this source book that I am using, because I thought it was an interesting thing to go over, because it gives us basically all the ins and outs all the way up to star by star on the new Jedi Order, and very well put together. Another source book to look into. I suggest that you find it and you add it to your collection. You add it to your collection. I see people are popping on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And again, what's in your mug? What are you enjoying this morning? And I have Mr. You guys can't see him, of course, but I have Mr. Darth Toby laying behind my computer here, all curled up by the window. So hopefully he doesn't start raising any hell and knock things over while we're live together. So let's see. We have people bouncing in the chat now. We have Melissa Lord, channel member. Hey girl, OG Stars, how are you doing? I am so happy you're with us. Hello there. Hey, what's up with you? Awesome. Yeah, I did peace signs. And then Jag's here. Had to use the Force to get to work today. I think I'd rather have made a Death Star run. And then howdy chat and howdy OG. How are you doing? And I'm wearing my Tatooine Mos Eisley Cantina shirt today, staying nice and warm. If you hear this little white noise in the background, it's a little heat fan, floor fan on my floor because my studio doesn't have central air or heating. So I have that going on to keep myself all nice and cozy in here. And let's see. Good morning, Alora. And this is from Holocron. If you can't really see that, hail to the chat. Hello to you. How are you doing? Now, I know you guys have been all following everything that's been going on Twitter. I know that maybe some of you guys have checked out the Sparrow Wars, which are the Sparrow Files, not wars. Me and the word war this morning. Damn. But yeah, so I would highly suggest if you haven't watched the Sparrow Files, go check it out. It goes into Source Wars, which I call Source Wars, and I think that that's a bit ridiculous. Like every bit of news that comes out, that's rumors and speculation. I notice people jump on it and says, "Oh, my sources said something similar," and then something else comes out. "Oh, they must be wrong because my source said this. They must be wrong. They're just trying to cover for them." So, we have people pushing and pulling with all these so-called sources and stuff, and I think it's very amusing. And in the long run, Disney doesn't have shit going on. They can't get their shit together. That's all we can say. That's all we can say. All right. So that's it for now. I said my piece. Okay, let's see here. We should have more people jumping on this morning. It's been one of those crazy, cold, foggy days here where I live at. And it's one of those days where it's like, if you don't need to be anywhere in the morning, then just stay home and stay, warm, under the blankets with a cup of coffee or tea or whatever you want, and just relax a little further. The fog cleared up significantly, but it's still pretty much hazy, kind of little, I wouldn't say gloomy, but it's you just stay inwards and stuff. So that's my weather report. And as you can see behind me, I'm working on an art piece right now. My goal is to have my own art show here coming soon. So I'm turning in my proposal, and I have to have 10 images of my art pieces to turn in with my proposal and my portfolio. So I'm working on that. And it's not going to be all about nature and stuff like that. There's other pieces I'm making. So this is like I'm doing a series called 4 Seasons. So one of the images is already done, and it is blooming almond flowers, and that represents spring. This is the acorn one, so it represents fall. And then I got to do summer and winter. So I got to figure out what images I'm going to use for that. Let's see here. All right. So how are you guys doing there in the chat? Let's see here. In stream, no. So it's pretty quiet today with everybody. I hope you guys are doing well. And so what do you guys know about the Yuuzhan Vong War and in the invasion too? So what do you know about the invasion? So how many of you guys have read, and how many of you guys have kept up on your knowledge with the Yuuzhan Vong invasion? Excuse me. Man, my sinuses has been a bit rough lately. I'm thinking about going to a specialist to check out my sinuses because I feel good otherwise. I need to figure out what's going on with these sinuses of mine. So, but what I wanted to talk about before we get into the Vong War, the invasion, is I wanted to brush upon Luke's order here. Luke's order. So it's called Luke Skywalker's Traditionalists. And this is what it's called in the source book. And I wanted to get into this because, we've had debates going back and forth with, or I have, and I've seen them before on, oh, well, Luke is a gray Jedi, or Luke this and Luke that. He's significantly different than the prequel trilogy Jedi, and there's a huge reason for that. He's supposed to be. He's supposed to have, either he did it knowingly or unknowingly corrected all the faults of the Jedi Order. Some of it pertaining to how his father fell to the dark side, and some of the other dogmatic, practices that they held on to. So this is called Luke Skywalker, and I didn't post this one here. I posted another thing on Twitter from the source book. But Luke Skywalker's Traditionalists. Over the years since he began training his first student, Luke Skywalker has come to realize that his perspective on training is colored by his own training under Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda, as well as by his brushes with the dark side. So think of that. So he realizes that there's a difference between, his training and possibly the training that his father and Obi-Wan and Yoda had received. Obi-Wan and Yoda prepared Luke to be a warrior, to face his father, Darth Vader, and rid the galaxy of the Emperor's evil. Had they the luxury of time, they might have trained him differently. Luke might have had a more holistic Jedi education. So think about that. So if they had the luxury of time, time wasn't on their side, then he probably would have a plethora of, different elements of training, maybe going back to the training that some of the PT Jedi or the PT era Jedi received. Maybe not. We can only speculate right now, but this gives us a clear indication that he was trained to fight, and but also to protect the galaxy. So that element was still in there. But his because of time was more of a warrior training, and a lot of like the other little nuances, like being I wouldn't say being peacekeepers, because maybe that too, but it was more warrior training for him, more than the peace, like finding peace before you fight. So there's that difference here. Hello, Batu, how are you doing? Hey, Soul Assassin, glad you're finally with us. He says, hey everybody, sorry for being late, power outage. Oh, that's fun. Yeah, I been through that last month a couple of times. Yeah. And let's see where I left off at here. And as it was, they taught Luke what he needed to know to defeat Vader and stop the Emperor. Luke was nearly lost to the dark side as a result, and the dark side continued to haunt him for years afterwards. Slowly, Luke learned to rein in his aggressive impulses and to use the Force more subtly, and rashly, and less rashly. As Mara Jade explained to him, Luke had always overcompensated, using the Force like a heavy club rather than a light tap. Once Luke had gotten past that realization, he settled into a greater understanding of the Force than he had ever had. So, he was going about it, like I said, in a warrior way, and using it more commandingly, I guess you can say. Not that he was thinking that he could overpower and the Force served him rather than him serving the Force, because that's clearly understood that he served the Force from the beginning. And it's a Sith way of thinking that you can the Force serves you, and you can use it at your will, and blah blah blah. That's very Sith. So there's still that same nuance that the PT Jedi had, is of them serving the Force and stuff, but he went about it always in a charging, warrioristic way. And I would like to hear what you guys think about what I'm giving you here, because if you've read through all his advancements from post Return of the Jedi, starting from Trusat Bekur all the way to the New Jedi Order, you will see differences, like how he, I wouldn't say aggressively, but because I've never seen Luke aggressive in the EU. I've never seen him in in the EU using it aggressively, but he was quick to fight in some instances. There were some times where he was quick to like try to resolve issues, and that we start seeing later on in his journey as coming, advancing as a master, from a knight to a master, and eventually a grandmaster. So I thought that was very interesting. And this is very interesting because it gives us an explanation to how we see Luke now settling into his own being during the New Jedi Order. Because Luke is very conflicted here. Should they act, or should they try to go with peace on this and not respond too quickly? He had those push and pulls because he didn't want his Jedi to turn dark. He didn't want to resort to killing. So there's a lot of that. And then finally he's like, we got to do what we got to do. We got to protect the galaxy. And he came to with that. The epiphany came after Luke had begun the Jedi Academy on Yavin 4. Those he had taught before he came to this awareness, including Kip Duran, were affected by his own perspective. Most of them, Tion, Seagull, Cornhorn, had not been touched by the dark side, and so were able to reconcile Luke's teachings with their own understanding of the Force. But Kip, having nearly become a dark Jedi, would always carry that seed of aggression with him. So Kip is one of them, and I love listening to Matt Wilkins' discussion on the New Jedi Order and how they perceived Kip Duran, because Kip Duran is his absolute favorite character. And man, he was not too pleased on how they were casting Kip Duran as this, this aggressor within the Jedi Order and stuff like that. So if you guys have not caught his rereads, especially on the New Jedi Order, go check them out. I highly recommend it. Since we're talking about more or less the New Jedi Order with the Vong lore, I would suggest to go back and check out his rereads on the New Jedi Order and just go through them. They're not very long each. I know there's 19 books to cover on top of the comics and stuff like that. Hey, Corey, how are you doing? And so I highly recommend that. I thought about doing like book reviews like his, similar to that, but I was like, you know what? I can't. I just don't have the time for that. I don't know how he has the time for that. I commend Matt Wilkins for that. And fortunately, the second crop, basically the second generation of Jedi, his niece and nephews, Jaina, Jason, and Anakin, Chewbacca's nephew, Lobaka, Tenno Ka, and other received the benefit of Luke's new, broader perspective. So he, after his second generation came to be, he started having a more broader perspective on training and stuff. And that's even, after he collected a lot of resources and stuff over his journey of trying to piece together the Jedi Order, the trainings, and everything that happened before, because we know that Palpatine, or the Emperor, did keep things, but also destroy things. So, he was piecing things together and received the benefit of Luke's new, broader perspective. A few still flirted with the dark side, but by the time Luke turned over active tutoring to Cam Selusar and his wife Tion, the Jedi Academy was teaching a more balanced approach to the Force. The balanced approach includes some basic tenets that characterize the mentality of the traditionalists. So it's very funny how they call this like Luke's new Jedi Order, like the first generation traditionalists, which sounds kind of funny because when you think of traditionalists, you think about like the very beginning and something that stuck, that was taught for thousands of years, and that would be the PT era Jedi, and even before. So the Old Republic, going all the way to the ending of its years, the PT era. So that's very, very, a different way to put Luke's like advancements, like, his journey in his own learning to become a master, become, the head of the Jedi, the Grand Master. And these are the tenets here that he that came from his growth, his learning, his research, his exploration, all of that. So here it is. The Force is to be used to save lives, not to take lives. The Force should never be used for personal gain. Every Jedi has a vote in making decisions for the group. And we all know what happens with that later on, once we get into Darkness Trilogy. Where we at? Oh, the Jedi should work to support and maintain the New Republic, but not at the expense of the Jedi ideals. So there's the change right there. Because when we seen the rise of, like, as the rise of the Empire and all the events that led to the rise of the Empire, the Jedi went against their beliefs, against their own tenets, against what they believed, basically. And their mission, yes, was to protect the galaxy from this evil that was arising, with the separatists and, all of that, and also the Sith. But they didn't stick to, they stepped away from their own ideals and stuff. And basically they stepped away from what they represented, in a sense. And so Luke right here is like, we will work with and alongside the New Republic as long as it doesn't overreach our ideas, our idea, our ideals and stuff like that. And last one here: if the Jedi are called upon to fight, they will defend the helpless without hatred, anger, or thoughts of revenge. So going in with a clearer mind, you have to clear your mind to use the Force, the light side of the Force, really, right? And so going in to protect. So let's see here. It says, does everyone think of Cornhorn or Cornholio from Beavis and Butthead when hearing Cornhorn? Oh my God. I didn't even think about that. Now I'm not going to stop thinking about that. Thanks a lot. So what do you think about that? So what do you think about this bit in here? And this is what like I said, I'm using resources from here. I'm giving you resources from this book here. And this goes to Star by Star. So there's a part 2 that I got to grab. And so I highly recommend this for you guys here to add to your library. And Soul Assassin says, Matt Wilkins has a time because he's a mad man. Yes, he is. And then he's one of those skilled, skilled readers, like those, I forgot the name, but he's someone who can read really, really quick. So marathon reader, maybe not. I don't know. So with that, you guys have any questions or anything that you want to apply with what I gave you with Luke Skywalker's traditionalists and how he advanced in his training and, created the new Jedi Order, and how there's differences, like it's vastly different from the PT Order, the order of his father and Yoda and stuff like that, their time. But also there's similarities. So let me know in the chat. Let's see here. And another thing I wanted to bring up before we get into, where is it at? Before we get into the invasion of the Vong into the galaxy. And if you guys want to pull out any of your books, like maybe Vector Prime or anything like that, to just have with you on resource on hand, feel free to do that. But we're going to get into the state of the galaxy. And the state of the galaxy, basically, I wouldn't say that it was, the state of the galaxy was primed for the Yuuzhan Vong to come in and invade, which may be so. But the state of the galaxy, you have them settling it down after, like, making peace with the Imperial Remnant, and now really establishing their government. And now aliens versus humans are, have more of an impact, because under the Empire, they were basically, there's xenophobia like crazy going on during that time. And there's a great video about that on Tim's channel, Open Airlock Policy, going over that. And I don't think he used this resource here, and I'm pretty sure that this would have benefited for his video, and it goes along with it. I don't recall he did. He may have, but I don't recall. So the state of the galaxy was, I wouldn't say it would have been, it's their fault that, why they got invaded, because no, these guys were strategic. They had implanted, some of their Vong in long before, just to scout, just to get, an idea on how they can invade, like what the galaxy's weaknesses was and all of that. I mean, it was very strategically planned. And these guys, like the Vong, if you want to compare them to like locusts or grasshoppers, where they go from place to place and eating and destroying the resources and moving on. In a sense, this is what these guys are. It's kind of strange comparison, but in reality, they do. They go to each galaxy, they invade, they defeat, they use the resources, and they move on. And they move on. And that's what I got from this here. So let me see here. And we have Star Wars Scran here. I'll have to catch the rest on replay begun. The Source Wars have. Yes, they have. The Source Wars have begun. Hello, saw someone was on, so I wanted to check everything out. Hey, Tabletop Junkie Games, how are you doing? Thank you for joining. We are talking about the Vong, the history of the Vong. This is the third and final. And we're going into the Vong invasion of the galaxy, Vector Prime. And just giving some history about the Vong, what's going on, like the unforeseen villains, and the villains that were not like any other villain in the history of Star Wars. I guess you could say, maybe you could say we go into Old Republic and stuff like that. We can name a few there, but like these guys, intergalactic invaders coming in to take resources, to take over for the sake of their gods, and for the type of, life they lead and how they destruct and stuff. The Force basically cut them off. The will of the Force cut them off. So that's very interesting. And so going on with that, and we have they came from a living planet as well. And Zonamasikot, the planet that we learn about later on in New Jedi Order, is basically a seedling, like a seed from that mother planet, their mother planet, I guess you could say. And Zonamasikot plays a big role in helping find peace with these people who didn't have peace, the word for peace in their vocabulary. And so that's very interesting as well. So there's a lot, like, alone just covering the Vong is a lot. It's a 19-book series, but then getting into like some character arcs within these plots, within the plot, like Jason's character plot, or our story in there, or even Jaina's was quite fun in here too. There are some slow stories as well, and that's fine. And I'm not trying to do expanded lore kind of thing here. Expanded lore is going and starting on Legacy era, so stay tuned for that. That will be coming out here pretty soon. But with every character, there's some kind of story that evolves the story and impacts the galaxy in one way, shape, or form, like Horn and Ithor. And so we have that as well. And even like in Balance Point, I believe it's Balance Point, where we almost lose Leia because she got bitten by an Amphistaff and started bleeding to death. And when Jason was like finally deciding to get his act straight and use the Force to help save. And so we have that push and pull story, and even him when he was being tortured by the Vong. And of course, we have Anakin Solos. We have there's so many different stories to add within this greater story and stuff like that. So I remember one sad moments was the loss of Chewbacca. Oh, one sad moment was the loss of Chewbacca during this time. Yes, in Vector Prime. So the state of the galaxy, in theory, the galaxy is at peace, just like I was saying, because they signed the peace treaty with Pelion, and Gaverson signed the peace treaty beforehand. So basically, the remnant now has their own section of the galaxy. They're in peace, living together in the galaxy, I guess you can say, coexisting, I guess you could say. And for the New Republic, crisis such as the emergency of the Diversity Alliance and the return of the Black Sun Criminal Syndicate were minor threats. So there's still, it's like nothing was like total peace and where nothing was happening. There was still, a little bit of like disputes and stuff going on. That's just common. And then, of course, criminal syndicates are going to take advantage still, so there's those. So we see Black Sun rise again, but they were minor threats. And the leaders of the New Republic have since devoted their attention to internal matters, setting policy, and allowing peace to continue throughout the galaxy. So you have all these, your coming together, doing policies, tightening up the government here, working with other systems, and all that other stuff. Establishing these policies meant resurrecting old conflicts which were simply not allowed under imperial rule. Squabbles have arisen everywhere, from minor systems to the council chambers of the Senate itself. Absent from the strict laws of the empire, many systems and factions scramble to grab more power, while others struggle to hold on to what power they already have. Trust is in short supply. So you have these systems, because the humans are the minority in the Star Wars galaxy. I don't think anybody realizes that. Humans are the minority, but they are all, you do have humans living on other planets, mostly other planets and stuff. Species, not just one species, but species, all these different alien species are the majority. So after they stepped away, or after the stronghold of the emperor and his xenophobic ways, after that grip was released, um and the peace came about between the imperial remnant and the galaxy. We have all these systems and all these different species and stuff like that now wanting to gain more power and control over their systems and stuff. So you have this push and pull with the New Republic on establishing you know this government's governing system and trying to appease every single sector. So you have this push and pull, people now realizing freedom, species now realizing freedom, and all of that. So that was very interesting as well. Let's see here. It says Boba tried to warn the Republic multiple times and stall the Vong during the invasion. Yep. But they weren't intergalactic. They ended up boomeranging at some point during the millennia, even eons they spent in the void. Intergalactic, that means like from other galaxies. So yeah. Not intergalactic, that meaning from the same galaxy. So the non-human in power. So this is like, again, we're going into the Vong invasion. So non-humans in power. Part of the distrust among many alien cultures arises from the underlying dissatisfaction on the part of the New Republic's population. Under the Empire, these people were accorded a few to no rights. Some were brutally enslaved or outright exterminated. So just imagine that, having species like xenophobic genocide happening because, the ruling faction, the Empire, did not care for them. Just imagine that, having species eliminated. Disenfranchised peoples have decades worth of resentment to vent. Even after the foundation of the New Republic, humans ruled the Senate. So they're coming to complaining, having all this thing about like, this is how we're treated in the Empire. Are you going to treat us this way? So they have more freedom, all of this, and they are expecting their rights. They're expecting their freedom and stuff like that. And in a way, it's not fair to the forming New Republic to have to bear the burden of what the Empire did, in a sense. But then it also makes sense that these people are not trusting humans for what the Empire did. So that makes sense in itself. So, and then, humans did rule the Senate in a sense, even though you had like different senators from different sectors and all this other stuff. Um, Only now, with the Bothan diplomat Borsk Felia as the chief of state, do non-humans feel they can finally receive their due, whether they perceive it that to be. So we all know Boris Fillion, he's the he's the asshole of the time, right? But he does go down in glory, so he does redeem himself in a sense. So if you have not read his the Fall of Coruscant in the series of the New Jedi Order and him standing his ground, like he sank with the sinking ship, basically. Even so, no revolution is afoot. The general negative feeling towards humans remains unfocused. And that's what the Empire did to these species, really. There is no concerted effort to unseat human politicians from the Senate or ask restitution for injuries suffered under the Empire. Non humans simply gave humans somewhat less leeway than they did during the heady days of the Rebel Alliance, when they fought side by side against the evil of the Empire. Now, the motivations of humans are always questioned, or at least the sincerity of their sympathy for the non-human issues held suspects. And that also goes back to the Fall of Coruscant, and that goes back into the X-Wing series of when they had the Kaitos virus going that was planted on the planet, and how Bacta was almost ineffective until they, created a new formula, I guess you can say. And that goes back to exactly what was being said here, is that how the Empire created non-trust of humans in other species. Now, was this a setup for the Vong to come in and take over? Maybe. I mean, because the attention was just like the squabbling and trying to establish power and the freedom that entails, now that the Empire's, like, even the remnant now is at peace with the remaining galaxy and stuff like that. There's no this none of this push and pull between the factions and stuff. So what do you guys have to say about anything that I've shared here so far? So I know it's pretty quiet here. Do any questions? Stop me with any questions, what have you. So, and then we're going to get into the anti-Jedi sentiment a little bit, and then we'll get into the Vong invasion. So, and do you guys have any favorite Vong characters? Like, who stood out for you? I know someone gave me information on Twitter when I was posting about it. So let me know. Let me know. And I forgot to say, for today, of course, we are, talking. I did say a little bit, but not much. But, Vong lore, talking about basically lore chat, and then cringe factor, and the state of Star Wars, which I kind of gave my little spew a little bit here. Last night, Tusken Bob did have a live stream. I was invited on there, but I ended up being at the studio longer than expected. So I wasn't able to make it on, and I was just so tired. I taught so many classes yesterday, and I was just like done with just like being social. I was done. So what I did is I got home and I rewound, because they were still going live. They were still live at the time. And so I just rewound and started from the beginning and listened through. And it was a pretty good stream. They broke down some pretty good stuff off of, like, from what Sparrow and Cameron gave. I wouldn't say gave. He didn't give. That Knights of Melvin was able to get off from the Patreon of Cameron's and expose what he is saying and stuff like that. So that was a very good show. They broke it down, had a few good laughs about everything. And I just don't understand why people believe that stuff. I mean, seriously, come on, but that's for a different time and a different talk here. We're not going to get into that here. But I suggest that you go later on, if you have time, listen to this live stream. Pretty good conversation between the two, him and Blake. So pretty good. Check it out. In a way, I wish I was there, but like I said, I was not feeling any, like, I was socially drained, like holding classes and then taking a class. I was like socially drained. I just needed some time for myself just to relax and not really talk, close my eyes and just listen to the show. So, but thank you, Tusken Bob, for inviting me on. I appreciate it. And I'm always welcome when you do that. And you're always welcome here as well. All right. So going back to the Vong, the New Jedi Order. Again, any questions? Any questions, any comments, or anything that you want to add on to create this conversation, keep it going, please feel free to do so. You know, I'm providing the context for us to sit and have a talk. You know, humans are the most xenophobic species. Look up the Pious Dece Crusades. Yeah, I agree. All right. So there was an anti-Jedi sentiment that was going on. Complicating matters somewhat is a growing antipathy towards the Jedi, where once a Jedi Council monitored the administration, the activities of thousands of Jedis throughout the galaxy. Now there's only Luke Skywalker, who, by his own reckoning, is more of a teacher than less of a leader. The hundreds or so Jedi he has trained listen to his advice to one degree or another, but they have very different ideas about the role of the Jedi Knights in the New Republic. Unfortunately, these ideas rarely coincide with the role in that the New Republic leadership sees for the Jedi. With the New Republic Defense Force in place, having a non-sanctioned group of independent-minded mystics enforcing peace and justice does not sit well with the Chief of State Philia or his supporters. Worse still, the activities of rogue Jedi are sometimes seen as little more than vigilantism. I can't even talk or read right now. Vigilantism. There we go. And at best, self-serving. Reports of burial sites raided by Jedi, presumably searching for Jedi artifacts, have come to light, and the eager participants of the Noble Jedi Knights has turned to irritable tolerances. So, you know, so they want the council wants control of the Jedi. Luke doesn't want them to have control. And we see that push and pull throughout Luke's history, eventually leading up to where they decide that they can't do that. And that's in the Fate of the Jedi series. So, you know, we have this and then from that, this is where the Vong got to take advantage of this situation and, you know, said, we will stop hurting, we will stop invading, we'll stop imprisoning you if you bring us Jedi. If you bring us Jedi. Let me see here. Anyone in the chat? I can't be the only one here. I know we have about 10 beautiful souls here just listening in. Feel free to talk, you guys. This is like a very quiet Thursday. I mean, I've had a couple of these before, and that's fine. But please add to the conversation. I'm here, Soul. Laugh out loud, listening in. I'm pretty sure you're working too, right, Melissa? Batusi says Lucas said that there was no immediate immunity to the Force, nor nothing as not being sensed. I think there is some reconciliation in EU, which is it, and does it work for you, or which is it and what does it? So, what do you mean by immunity? The Vong aren't immune to the Force. They were just cut off from the Force. Is that what you mean? Is that what you're alluding to? The Force still is around them. It still binds them and stuff. And the Islamari basically aren't immune to it. You know, they're still part of the Force and stuff, but they have a protective bubble so no one can sense them through the Force. And that because of that, if you're within their bubble and stuff, you really can't really harness the Force either. So, I mean, that's not immunity to as well. So, I think the creators were very aware that there was that, what George's point was when it came to the Force. So, if I clarified for you, I hope I did. I hope I clarified that for you. All right. I think too, if I was just here talking about the state of Star Wars and just like really going at it with the announcement of the Rey movie being canceled, not canceled, whatever, and stuff like that, I think I would have a bigger audience. But this is not what CAF Chat's about. Yes, I can talk a little bit about it here. That's fine. But CAF Chat's more or less getting into the EU, George Lucas era, cringe factor, what's going on with the state of Star Wars in a sense. But it's not solely about that. And then the cringe factor is also going in and just seeing what's going on with the state of Star Wars lore wise, what these pop culture sites are saying about it, and then just, correcting them and having fun laughing at them or whatever. So yeah, so I think if I was just solely talking about the state of Star Wars, what's going on with all these cancellations and stuff like that, and really just tearing into it, I think I would have a bigger audience. But that's fine. Catch me tomorrow night on Tim's channel, and then you'll hear me go for it. Yeah, so I highly recommend you go over there tomorrow night and join in the chat and come into deeper conversation with what's going on. And the Source Wars. Yes, I have my big, huge opinion about that. So stay tuned. Soul Assassin says, Lucas were immune to most Force abilities besides Force Lightning. And let's see here. I joined in for breakfast. Now I got stuff to do. Sorry for making this. This is my radio station. That's okay. Listen in. Jump in if you have an important question or you want something clarified, or you want to add something that maybe I forgot to add. Feel free to do that. So it's very cool that I'm glad that you're listening in. I do have people that listen in when they're doing chores around the house, when they're driving. I do that with other channels and stuff when I know they're live. And I know I can't really sit and commit in the chat. I do listen in, and I appreciate every single one of you. You guys are amazing. Yes, all good. Let's see here. Yes, that's what I was referencing. I understood. They so they still still part of the Force. Yeah, so they're still part of the Force. The Force is the life way. They just were cut off from it to where they can't, in no way they can use it or what have you. They're like a void in the Force, but doesn't mean they're immune to the Force. So yeah. What is it now about the wheels of the EU? The wheels of the EU. So let's see here. So yeah, so that anti-Jedi sentiment is another thing that the Vong used for their advantage. So we're not going to get into other factions like Kip's Radicals or anything like that, or the Imperial Remnant. Let's see here. So let's see here. You know what? We didn't talk about Vong weapons and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into much of that, but everybody knows what the MP staff. Well, you guys should know the MP staff, the Kufi, so it's kind of a double-edged dagger made sharpened, and then you have the magma pebble. They do use like beetles as little bomb devices and stuff like that explode, the thud bug and stuff like that. Every single equipment and piece of like clothing, I guess you can say, is a living thing. I know it sounds weird, huh? Like the crab armor, basically. I'm going off to the crab armor. It sounds like what the Mandalorians would call that. Wait, excuse me, I'm stretching. But the armor was living. Their equipment, everything was something living that they some kind of biology, whether it's coral, whether it's bugs, whether it's the crab armor, all of that So it's very interesting. These like they were totally organic. They frowned upon machines being used, metal being used, like lightsabers too. That right there was a blasphemy to them, and that was very interesting reading and stuff like that. So Vector Prime, that was their entry port to the galaxy. And that's the name of the first book. And that area was Balkaden, Helska, Dubrillion, Bastion, and Serpendal. And we know that we lost Chewie at Serpendal. So that was the entry point for them, Vector Prime. And what's interesting is that the Empire, the Imperial remnant, nearly got ignored for the first from the invasion first. And so that's where their ignorance played, where they're like, oh well, they just ignored us, so we're fine, we're not going to help because we're not involved in their war. They just passed us by, kind of deal. Until they didn't. Until Pelion basically almost lost his life and had to really put his foot down and basically in a sense go toe to toe with the Vong. It's like, if you're gonna, go ahead and, come at us. If you don't, leave, kind of deal. So, and I do have a EU short on that clip. That was one of Pelion's most memorable moments. And this man was in Bacta, and he was literally saying, either you're gonna attack or you're not. What are you gonna do? So basically, and so he called the bluff. He called the bluff in, basically almost on his deathbed in the Bacta tank. And that was an amazing scene there in itself. Let me see here. You have to bond with those staffs, correct? Cade's friend was able to do it after being taught. Yes, exactly. And that's the thing, is that you bond with your ship, you bond with the Villip, you bond with your staffs. I mean, everything you bond with. Like, so you create this relationship in a sense with these weapons, with these equipments and everything around that. So it's a very, like, today we are so into our machines, into our devices, that we don't bond with everything around us. It's like we are always on the phones, we are always working on the computers and stuff like that. We don't have this biological interaction between humans a lot more than we used to before all this technology came about. And I'm not saying like we're similar to the Vong or anything. I'm just sharing the difference of being present versus being attached to your equipment and stuff. And to the Vong, like any type of equipment, anything that was not biological was blasphemy. So that was a very interesting take with that. I think Darth Crate's Sith Order used lightsaber hilts made from Vong tech. I have to look into. We'll explore that more since we're going to go into Legacy era. We'll explore that more. Batusi says, what kind of weapon did the Vong use to fight the Jedi lightsaber? So they use their Imphy staffs. And those Imphy staffs can be like whips, or they can be like a staff. So so that was very, very interesting with that. Let's see here. And then we have Diddly Squat here. What's up, Diddly Squat? How are you doing? And then Batusi says, how many planet galaxies were conquered by the Vong before the intent of conquering our galaxy? I don't think that was ever given to, or the Star Wars galaxy. I don't think that was ever given, like how many they have invaded before the Star Wars galaxy, before the galaxy that that we're talking about. So, but if anybody does know, please let me know, because I have never found that. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It could well exist, but I know that they did go and invade other galaxies. Yes. All right. For most of the Star Wars galaxy, the story of the New Jedi Order began with invasion of the Piotrite and Vong. Probably said that wrong. Sorry. Events on backward worlds in the expansion region precede their arrival. Researchers on an untamed planet in the Outer Rim territories witness their ingenuity. The doomed people of Serpendel suffer their atrocities. The invasion fleet is turned aside at Duburian and finally thwarted on Helska 4. So just imagine, okay, so the untamed planets, you see there was an easy takeover. And then Serpentel, not so easy, but very tragic. We do see a lot of loss there, including one of the most beloved characters of the trio, their friend Chewie, Han's best friend. And then Helska, Helska basically was like they was thwarted. Their invasion was thwarted there, but that's when the galaxy started seeing what was going on. Yet the New Republic still kind of ignored this, like, oh well, it was kind of odd how the New Republic, the government, acted upon this. So the Helska 4 was an icebound planet where they established the first headquarters in the galaxy. And so this is where we've seen we seen this push and pull between Han and his son Anakin, because Anakin knew, and so did Chewie, knew that if they didn't take off like they did, they would have all died. So Chewie saved them, and Anakin had to make the choice of leaving Chewie. Chewie died heroically. He died like how he should have died. But because Han did not understand that, because Han was so engulfed in his grief and the loss of his best friend and stuff like that, he blamed his son for purposely leaving Chewie. And that was a very hard read. That was very hard to even come upon, and then and so one realization that helped Han began his forgiveness, but it took him a couple books to fully forgive Anakin, and fully realize that he misinterpreted what was really going on. Because I wouldn't say forgive Anakin, but forgive himself, and also, Anakin for having to leave, because that was such a difficult choice. Is when they were on Helska. So Helska is an ice planet. The Vong were basically within the ice, underneath the ice, with their headquarters and stuff like that. And they found a way of heating up the planet. And then because of that the heating and the expansion, the planet exploded, in a sense. So I'm going very brief on what happened in that situation. Well, Luke Skywalker was one of them that was a part of this mission, along with Jason and stuff. And Luke was the last to get out. And Han wanted so bad to turn around and go find Luke. Leia and the rest of them were like, we can't, we have to get going. And Han realized he had to make the decision. The planet exploded. They didn't see Luke whatsoever. And that's where he realized this is the same situation, our son Anakin was in. Later on, we find out, like shortly after, we find out Luke survives, obviously, and stuff like that. But that was a turning point on Han's realization that what Anakin's decision he made was a sound one, even though it's something hard to live with. It was a sound one in that situation on Serpendel, and leaving, having to, Chewie telling them to go, leave, and stuff like that, and Chewie saving them, and him having to leave Chewie because there's no way that they could have saved Chewie. Chewie did what he needed to do there, so that was a very emotional thing right there as well. Let me see here. Did the Vong have some sort of usability effect on the Force users? No, they didn't. Or did they simply just not have the presence in the Force? They just didn't have the presence in the Force. Mind tricks probably wouldn't work on them either. No. So they didn't have the presence in the Force. Let's see here. It seems the New Republic just a lazy as the Old Republic during the Mandalorian Wars ignored the threats until they were that's I think they repeated their history. They had a chance to learn, but we have how many years, centuries, or something like that it wasn't that long, but still, you still had, years and years in between, but they never learned. They never learned. And that's what happens with history is sometimes people don't learn and it repeats until that lesson is learned. Batusi says, any favorite Vong character, or were there more likely adversaries in the story, kind of stormtroopers, etc., or was there some good character development? If so, which Vong is your favorite? And I was asking you guys, so what Vong is your guys' favorites? There's, favorite doesn't mean that you have to like them because they're some kind of hero. You could have a favorite villain. You can have a favorite any type of character because they stand out, because they were unique to you. So there you go. Yeah. So, Romamul and Alcerian. Romamul is a mining world, a tiny, cramped planet with skies full of red dust. So this is where I think where at the time, we realized that Mara Jade is really sick, and she was implanted with a virus that was slowly taking her life. There's a few of people were, because she has the Force and she used the Force to kind of help keep her strength and keep herself going. It kind of kept the virus at slow advancing in her system, or at bay, I guess you can say. And so, but when they went to, I think it was Romamul, I believe it was Romamul, and they seen all these dead bugs and they collected the dead bugs and stuff. That's when, the virus started making more of a presence in her body, and she started feeling weaker and stuff because she was in the presence of, Vong equipment, I guess you could say. I don't know. So, Bell, like I said, was another planet. There's so many here. So that was the invasion here. And over time, of course, they asked for the Peace Brigade. I guess she's called the Peace or Human Brigade or whatever to help them hunt down the Jedi. They started like I said, the New Republic basically was like very passive aggressive against this invasion, and was like, just let them do what they need to do. Maybe they'll leave. And that was very odd to read. Very, very odd to read. Okay. Favorite standalone EU novel? Been asking for a few people that lately. Okay, standalone favorite. And we're coming up on the hour, so we got to get into our cringe factor. So let's finish this up here. But standalone novel. Because there's like, I have like favorite novels within a series, which a series is not very standalone. But I think maybe this is going to probably make you like scratch your guys' head. But I think True Sat Bakura is one of my favorite standalones. Yeah. Didn't they make Vong action figures back in the 90s? Yeah. I seem to recall glimpses of one some time ago. Yes, they did. Yislameri disrupted and are rejected the Force. Vongs were rejected by the Force, correct. So they created the bubble. The Force rejected the Vong for the way they lived their lives and stuff. Oh my God. So if you guys follow me on Twitter, I'm going to take this picture. But Darth Toby is asleep behind the computer, and he looks so friggin' peaceful. Yeah. So he is not raising hell. He is asleep. I'll share that later. What is your opinion on Palpatine knowing about the Vong? I thought that was really weird. I think they could have left him out of this whole thing and left the Death Star situation out of this whole thing, and it still would have made sense. So, yeah. I think that him wanting to create the Death Star not only to rule and have something to reinforce his power against all the systems, but take it and haven't used it as to destroy invaders as well. I think took away from his wanting to like have this strict, staunch imperial rule and stuff like that. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. You guys let me know what you guys think about that. I mean, do we really have to get to cringe factor? Yes, it's very interesting. We have a countdown of what they say. It's 15 moments. Let me see. I've got to scroll up here now because I was reading through them earlier. 15 moments when Star Wars characters are uncharacteristically dumb. And I can't friggin' read today. What the hell's wrong with me? All right. I wonder how the Vong were named. What inspired them? You know what? Let me look into that because I know that people are saying that they're kind of like a knockoff to some D&D characters, um and stuff like that. But let me look into some of that more. I didn't really I don't recall if I have looked into it before or that I wanted to look into it before. So I will share that here on my community page here on Twitter and on YouTube. So both community pages, I will share that. Choose that Victoria is amazing. Victoria. I'm telling you, what the hell's wrong with me? I cannot read today. I have like speech impediment going on. Wow, sounds like you need to do OG recommends videos. Yes, that sounds like a good one too. Always good to switch the channel stuff up a little bit to keep people interested. You know, this week OG recommends, and it could be a quick short or whatever. Yeah. Thank you so much, Soul Assassin, for that neat idea. Diddley Squat says it's a strange addition because in the movies it was all about controlling the systems and crushing the rebellion. Yeah, exactly. Ruling the galaxy, having this like iron fist, you know, and stuff like that. So to me, I think that lessened that structure here in a way. Do I think it was bad? No, but did I like it? Not really. You know, I mean, it still made a little sense in a way. Now you're posing for me? Huh? Now you're posing? You crazy cat. All right. Yeah. So the Yuuzhan Vong invasion fleets, at the heart of the Yuuzhan Vong invasion fleet was massive living world ships. So these were world ships. Like I said, they were biological living entities that they used. They bonded with, made entirely of York coral. Each vessel is 10 kilometers in distance and houses 5,000 warriors plus several thousand civilians and slaves. A world ship carries hundreds of coral skippers, Yuuzhan Vong short-range fighters, and a number of other craft vessels. Behind each world ship, long trundles pull tethered, piloted coral skippers. When world ships travel between galaxies, a number of Yuuzhan Vong capital scale ships are also tethered to each other. So those like long little tentacles will help tether the ships together. These vessels served as homes to thousands of warriors. Imagine that. World ships are the only homes many Vong have known. Well, so it takes them a long time to travel. So that's why probably they don't know in general how many galaxies they have invaded before, or if this is the first or second one, who knows. While they are formidable warships, they are constructed primarily as colony vessels. They are specifically built to facilitate the trip from the galaxy to the next. They are more world than ship, being treated in the game of planets rather than, being treated in the game as planets. Okay, this, like I said, this is a source book, RPG. So being treated as planets rather than vehicles. A world ship has no heart since Coral is a colony of billions of creatures rather than an individual creature with a single weak spot. So very interesting with that. I would have liked to have seen Vong reactions if they found out some of the robot species that destroyed their galaxy made it to the Star Wars one. Oh my God. And that's a thing too. Once we get into expanded lore, the new Jedi Order era, we'll get into that as well. So this is me having this expanded lore gives us a time and chance to really explore some things that is hardly discussed because it's something that maybe myself or another EU elitist, I guess you could say, don't really think about. But covering all these little underpinning nuances that make the galaxy and the lore and stuff is something that really needs to be uncovered to give people real perspective and realization of how how deep this lore goes in Star Wars. So there you go. So there's a lot more to cover here, but that was the beginning of the Vong invasion. We know that over time, they campaigned for Jedi to be killed or brought to them and killed. Um, they highly respected the Jedi in a sense because those are their nemesis in the galaxy here. They did study them as well, and that's another thing that needs to be covered. There's so much that needs to be covered, right? So much that needs to be revealed, that maybe some people who are barely discovering the EU, or maybe are in the EU but never really think about it. But these, like I said, little nuances really need to be brought out so that we can see like the story in deeper context of what's really going on and stuff. And this is one of these, and these source books really breaks it down beautifully. Yeah, very beautifully. So Serpendale was, like I said, one of the huge casualties here. And they did go out to the Outer Rim eventually. They made their way towards the capital. And there was a huge reason for that, because that's where the government, that's where the power system of the galaxy is at. And once you take down that, you do gain control. And so the fall of Coruscant was another tragic, and I blame more of the New Republic government and Borskfelia than anything else, because they were so passive on this invasion, and the Jedi were like, we got to get this done, and they basically turned against the Jedi in a sense, and so they were working on their own. And what's funny is that we have Disney Star Wars and we have the Resistance, their rebels called the Resistance. But when you read these stories and you get into these stories and stuff, when the New Republic started turning on the Jedi even more and more, that's when like people like Wedge and all the common heroes that bonded together in the rebellion got together, like with like Wedge, and I think it was like Tycho Selchu and Luke Skywalker and Leia and Han and all them, and they decided to form their own resistance, and that's what they called it, their own resistance. And anything that they, and I did a video on this too, an EU short, I believe, or maybe it was a little longer than a short. Shorts are about 1 minute or shorter. But I did a video on that as well, from the audiobook, about them forming the resistance and stuff. And what they were saying is like, anything that we speak of is only between us, and we'll be the ones that are fighting to help save the galaxy, despite what the New Republic thinks of us and stuff like that. So it was very interesting to listen to and also to read, because some of these books were abridged, so you don't get the larger context was what's really going on. That's very plot heavy, I guess you can say. So when you listen to it and then versus read and stuff, you still get the gist of what's going on, but reading it lends more to the dire straits, the dire needs of forming together to defeat this aggressive villain enemy that they have never seen before. So they put their lives at stake, and they did what they need to do despite what the New Republic wanted of them. Do you know if the Star Wars galaxy has a name, like our Milky Way or No, I don't. I don't know if it has a name. I wonder if during their travels between the galaxy, the Vong became more extreme in their warlike culture, refugees of war fanatics. That's a good question. I think because they did get extreme within their beliefs and stuff, and how they were a warrior society and everything, I think that's when they started getting cut off from the Force. Now, knowing that they were cut off by the Force means that the Force might have been a part of other galaxies, or what I'm seeing is because Zonama Sikot was the the seedling of the original planet, and Zonama Sikot was very, attuned to the Force. I wonder if the parent planet could travel too. I'm guessing it could. And so that leads to a lot of questions like, okay, so where was the original galaxy? Did the Zonama Sikot come from another place? Probably. She stayed hidden in the unknown regions. So, there's a lot of these little underpinning questions I've always had. Like what you guys say, where were they from? Their mother planet. Was it originally from that galaxy or not? So you have all these underlying pinning questions and stuff. So I think it's very interesting. And sometimes it's good to have every single answer to the questions, because it keeps the lore in some aspects of mystery as well. The Corellian Alliance I can back. Yeah, so Corellian, basically that system and that planet and those group of people, beings, species and stuff, man, they have always been, more independent than anything else and up to fight for their own freedom and stuff like that. The Star Wars galaxy was never named. Yeah, that's what I thought, because I don't recall that whatsoever. So if Disney decides to name it now that they took Ahsoka out of the galaxy, will you guys accept it? Will you guys agree with it? Should it stay nameless? Let me know. So let me see here. Soul Assassin, the Vong got cut off for being extreme. Exactly. Probably the same happened to the Rakata. Yeah, so there you go. So the Force, the wheel of the Force, right? That's what we're talking about too, is the wheel of the Force. What did the Force want? The Force relatively wanted balance, and balance in the Force is basically the light. Now, decisions are not always going to keep you in the light, but as long as you try to maintain that and stuff, you will have some sort of balance. And that's how that goes. So I highly recommend this here. Maybe I'll do one more Vong conversation next week. But here's the book again. Very, very chock full of information here. Even if you're not going to do the role-playing game for this, it is a great resource. And this is what George Lucas also, recommended for writers to get into, is these source books, like early Western game source books, to help create lore, to help them so that they have some tools in front of them while they're writing, because they're not going to always have George and his people in front of them to ask all the questions or answer all the questions they have. And, you get into all the invaded planets. They're all in the black as we lead towards Star by Star. So they really impacted the galaxy. And, of course, you have the Voxen encounter, the Voxen facility information as well. That's another thing to get into, is the Voxen. They are a breed off of the Vornskers from Merkur. And let's see here. And Coruscant here. Anakin Strike Force. Is this Coruscant here in this image? It almost looks like Coruscant. I could be wrong. Does it have a... No, it doesn't. Could have been Arcana. Yeah, but... So here we are. Here's those Voxens. So just imagine having a species that hunts you down and can kill you if you're a Force user, heightened up to be these death weapons against the Jedi. So terrifying. So terrifying. All right, let's see here. It would have been neat if Lucas named the galaxy. It would have made it even more realistic, like our own universe. And maybe that's yeah, I agree. and I've always thought maybe that, in universe, there is a name, but it was never given to us. So, but that's just how I think, but I'm fine that it doesn't have a name either. So let's see here. Hey, what's going on, Matt G? How you doing? How you doing? All right. And let's see here. Hello, Fox. Hello, you guys. And my Darth Toby over here just chilling. Now he's staring at me, maybe because I'm talking over here and probably disturbing his sleep. Yeah, so our next, we're going into cringe factor. So go ahead and maybe refill your drink, grab a new drink, and we're going to get in. So we can laugh and discuss about this. I don't think it's that bad of a cringe factor, more than makes one laugh. But go grab your drinks and let's get into our cringe factor. Let me see. But first off, where is it at? Oh, there we go.
I had fought the worst of all wars and witnessed the redemption of evil. I have seen balance restored to the Force. But order can turn to chaos, as it did when I was born. Now, with my loved ones and my loyal allies, I face a new challenge unlike any before. And I'm not sure this time we can win.
Star Wars Vector Prime by R.A. Salvatore, the first novel of the new Jedi Order.
So uncivilized.
So uncivilized, yes. And that is his little famous quote after he fought with Grievous and ended his life for good. So he met his task, what he had to go do. And little did he know that this was just a further setup of their destruction, the Jedi's destruction, the plan of Palpatine. And Grievous is just one of the tools to get there. But that is another topic. So let's see here. So this right here is basically from Screen Rant. Screen Rant has always been one of the main ones that helps with the cringe factor topics. And this is about 15 moments. And let me go ahead and scan in here a little, there we go. Scroll or make it enlarge it. 15 moments when Star Wars characters were uncharacteristically dumb. So what do you think this is about? And do you think this is only about George Lucas era, or do you think they're going to include any of the Disney lore? Who knows? And this is by Corey Larson. So let's see how much Corey Larson understands what he's talking about. Despite the Star Wars franchise being meticulously crafted, there are still plenty of moments where characters make downright dumb decisions. So what do you think? What do you think? Do you recall any dumb decisions that these characters in Star Wars has made? Let me know. I'm just going to go ahead and make this a little larger here. There we go. So you let me know what you think about this. Yo, yep. And let's see. Oh shit, this article is so full of cringe. Yes, I shared it with. I'm like, oh no, we can laugh. It's not that cringe. And he's like, no, this is foolish. This is so full of cringe. I did share this with Soul Assassin, so he knows all about it. I kind of prepared him for this moment because it's always good to prepare your your mods in a way to know what to expect sometimes. And we're always sharing stuff lore wise. So, and it's discussing a lot pertaining to that. So, do you think there's any stupid character moments in Star Wars? I'm pretty sure you might think so. The Nagai called it Sky River, but there's no official name for the galaxy. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. Why they always put Qui-Gon when they have to insult the intelligence of the Star Wars characters, I don't know. And thanks for catching that, because now I can recall that there's a lot of Qui-Gon images used when it comes to something like this. So so what do you think? So let's get into the crux of this here. What do you think? Share with me And I just need to get this guy out of the way. Get out of my way. Okay. So I'm not going to just read all what he said here. We're just going to get into, they're starting with number 1 here. Let me go ahead and there we go. The Imperial who didn't shoot C-3PO and R2-D2's escape pod. So this is in A New Hope when the escape pod was ejected out. So remember, you guys, you should remember this from A New Hope. Perhaps the first lapse in judgment ever shown in Star Wars occurs in the beginning of Star Wars, now known as A New Hope. Volvin, an Imperial onboard Vader's Star Destroyer, ends up commanding his subordinate not to shoot the Tantive 4's escape pod. Little did he realize that both C-3PO and R2-D2 safely made it to the surface. He didn't even know anybody was in there. So how would he know that C-3PO and R2-D2 was to escape with, anything? He didn't know. So to say C-3PO and R2-D safely made it to Tatooine, the surface of Tatooine, because of his oversight, he did not know anything of that nature was going on. And which he made, so like they're trying to say his oversight he knew, which is wrong. Whoops, okay. Darth Toby decided to stretch and knock down all my books, but we're good. Nothing happened other than they knocked away from the computer. And while he made that, he may have saved the Empire a few turbo laser blasts. They came at the expense of the Death Star's destruction later in the film. So they're making it sound like he should know that there was droids in there, I guess you can say. But they scanned the pod and there was no life form in there. And that was already discussed. So do you think this was a stupid decision, a stupid mistake here? What do you guys think? We're number one. Do you think that was stupid? Do you think, oh no, my screen went black. No. Okay, there we go. I'm back. That scared me. I thought I lost you guys. So let's see here. Perhaps when Obi-Wan and Anakin got trapped in the ray shields. And that was purposely set up that way. Because they even talk about that. As you say. Stop it. In the novel and comics, Obi-Wan and Anakin fell into the traps time after time. Yeah, there was always something that they got into. Rereading the Bounty Hunter Wars, book of Boba Fett doesn't even compare. OG Star Wars sent you a real reason they didn't shoot the pod. Let me see then. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go check that out, and then we'll go to number 2. All right. Are we playing by the laser now? Oh my God. Okay. I will check that in a little bit. All right. So let's get to number 2. Cat, I don't know what you're trying to do right now, but I'm going to kick you off the table. Can you hear him? Darth Toby is raising hell. All right. Stop. All right. Han Solo trusted Lando to help the rebellion. So number 2, Han Solo trusting Lando Calrissian to help the rebellion in Empire Strikes Back. So let's go more into this. Despite his unkempt appearance, Han Solo is one of the smartest characters in the original trilogy. He may not have had any other options when he turned his crew over to the hands of Lando Calrissian in The Empire Strikes Back. But when did he... But he grossly overestimated his past friendship with Lando. Given Han's knowledge of Lando's cheating habits at Sabacc, he should have kept his guard up more instead of being lulled by the peaceful serenity of Cloud City. In any case, he paid for his oversight at the end of the film after being frozen in carbonite. So this right here, Han Solo trusting Lando to help rebellion and then saying that he he paid for his oversight at the end for him being frozen in carbonite. Now, he didn't. What's not being said here is when Leia asked Han, on the Falcon as they were traveling towards Bespin. She asked him, "Do you trust him?" And he says no. So he knew exactly what he was getting into. And so basically, this kind of negates everything that the person's saying, how he is being stupid. This was a stupid decision. In the end, it wasn't a stupid decision because they gained an ally. Lando did what he needed to do for the sake of the people of Cloud City, but he also helped them escape. Now, yes, Lando or Han was at the expense of everything that happened, but then they planned and they freed Han from the carbonite. So, was this a stupid decision? Not really. Did he mention that he didn't trust him in a sense? Yes, he did. So I think the person maybe forgot that what Han said. Again, just like number one, forgetting the context of the conversations and stuff. Okay, stop chewing on my stuff. Okay, pause here. You guys go ahead and give me some information in the chat what you think. I'm going to kick the Mr. Toby out. He is starting to chew on my brushes and stuff. Okay. All right. Let's see here. So let's see what you guys have to say. It's unlikely for someone to put droids in the escape pod under assault, so most obvious thing is to think of this as a malfunction, and putting the plans alone wouldn't be a smart decision. There you go. So again, this number 2 is not the dumbest one of the, doesn't make Han uncharacteristically dumb. Does not, because he already states, his feelings towards Lando. He sees him as a friend, but he also recognizes that he's not that trustworthy. But this is the only thing. This is the only way they can go and find refuge. And in the end, Lando Calrissian proved himself. So number 3, Palpatine giving the rebels the exact location of the shield generator. So this is not a stupid decision of Palpatine either. This was a strategic decision. Now, does this person even realize what the fuck he's doing here? There's a reason why he gave them the location. So let's go ahead and... Palpatine is often considered the perfect mastermind of Star Wars for the flawlessly orchestrating the fall of the Jedi and the reign of the Empire. But his pride, hubris ended up getting the better of him in Return of the Jedi, when he willingly gave up the location of the Endor shields generator to the rebellion. While he hoped to crush Luke's spirits, he ended up underestimating the rebels on Endor, spelling out his own doom and destruction of the second Death Star. So, no, the defeat of the shields wasn't necessarily just the rebellion, the rebels. It was the Ewoks. He underestimated these little peaceful teddy bears. And they're the ones. Without the Ewoks, I know some of you guys didn't care much for the Ewoks being in the story. I hear that time and time again. I didn't mind. They were very underestimated by the Empire. But him allowing them to have the location of the shields also set up for the trap of the fleet coming in and the Death Star shield still being up. So that was a very strategic plan. Sometimes they fall. Sometimes those plans end up not coming to fruition. That's just the name of the game. Was it dumb? No. He just didn't win this time. That's all. That's it. And it also brought Luke to them, which they were trying to turn. And, so there's a lot of underpinning context that this person's not really getting into with this, saying that Palpatine was dumb during this decision. So let me see what you guys have to say. Okay, come on. Open up. You're gonna, okay. Don't do this to me. Okay, who's with me? Jawas versus Ewok gladiator fight. There we go. That would be fun. I think the Ewoks will win. What do you guys think? Palpatine had his best troopers and ships waiting with a fully armed Death Star for the rebels. Correct. I think Toby is a Screen Rant fan. He'll have no more of you insulting his favorite site. Yeah, that's Darth Toby right there. He's gone now. Dilly Squat says the rebellion only won because Chewbacca took over one of the two remaining ATSTs and destroyed the other. Even if most of the walkers were destroyed by the Ewoks, still that was one of the game change. Yeah, there's a lot. There's like little underpinning little things that happened that helped the rebellion, and Ewoks were one of them. Like him and his little troop of Ewoks basically helped save the day. So this person is not realizing that there are certain factors that Palpatine did not see. Doesn't mean that that it was a dumb decision of his. Number 4, Qui-Gon insisting that Anakin to be trained. This is not a dumb decision, because if Anakin was, and I'm not even going to read what is said below. We're just going to go scroll on to the next one, because this right here is a no fucking brainer. This was not a dumb decision, because if he wasn't taken in to be trained, what do you think the state of the galaxy would have been? The story wouldn't even have come to fruition, basically. Number 5, Jango Fett going to kill Zam Wesell rather than Padme. So we know why he did that, to shut her up, because she was about to reveal who he was and what the plan was, why they were killing Padme. There's no way of him going over there and trying to kill Padme, and now she has all her guards and everything surrounded. And who's to say? Maybe he thought she was dead. Maybe, who knows? Because that's never really fully given to light. So either he went to go kill her and then faced and given his presence out and away, or whatever, and by her guards and by the forces protecting her. Who knows? So he killed Zam to keep her mouth shut. That's it. That's all. So that's not a dumb decision of his whatsoever. This is just saying maybe he should have just went to kill Padme instead of Zam. But then she would have revealed who he was. It would have spoiled a lot more than Obi-Wan taking the dart and, tracing, the origins of the clones. So, yeah. Okay, number 6, Padme dismissing Anakin's slaughter of the Tuskens. What do you guys think about this one right here? Do you agree? Is this one thing that you may agree with this writer here? So I'm going to read this, okay, just to give a little bit more context on what this person's thinking. Later in Attack of the Clones, Padme uncharacteristically consoles Anakin after his outburst rather than rebuke him from slaughtering a whole tribe of Tusken Raiders. Now, in the galaxy, what do you think people think about the Tusken Raiders? Okay, well, it's clear Padme has fallen for Anakin at this point in the movie. It's strange how she suddenly loses her altruistic concern for helpless Tusken women and children. I did not know she had an altruistic concern about Tusken culture. Did you guys know that Padme had an altruistic concern about the helpless Tusken culture? That the Tuskens were helpless? Did you really realize that the Tuskens were helpless? Like, there's this underlying factors of Tuskens attacking, the farmers and settlers on Tatooine. They were just all helpless, right? They're all helpless. She's supposed to be one of the biggest proponents of humanitarian aid in the Senate, yet she sets that aside to help conceive her new boyfriend that his genocide wasn't a big deal. Think about this. Think about how the person's wording this. So genocide of the Tuskens were helpless, but yet they enslaved his mom. They were torturing his mom. She had altruistic concern over the helpless Tusken women and children, when the women were capable of fighting just as well as the men. if they needed to. So what do you guys think about this? Let me see. The Tuskens may walk like men, but they're savage animals. Padme probably thought, oh, it won't happen again. Anakin won't massacre another group. Right? Another group of children. Let's go there. Like she can foresee everything, like the future and stuff. It was either, okay, there we go. I don't know why it clicked out. It was either finish the job or reveal the Jedi, the clone army, and possibly his son's safety. Right? Yep, and that goes back to Jango and Zam. So, all right. And he slaughtered them like animals, right? Let's see here. I kind of get this one, but from her perspective, they are a bane on settlers and considered violent monsters to the people of Tatooine. Even the Jawas thought so. Tuskens are monsters. They only torture and kill. I wonder if the Tuskens have been extinct species if the EU continue because they were dwindling in numbers, like especially after the Yuuzhan Vong invasion. So that's a good thought right there, especially after the Yuuzhan Vong invasion. Number 7, Obi-Wan and Yoda hiding Luke. And one more thing about the Tuskens. I think in one point, I think it's one of the books in the Callista trilogy where a Tusken is on board a ship. Yeah, so they started traveling outwardly, I guess. I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird, but who knows. Number 7, Obi-Wan and Yoda hiding Luke at Darth Vader's old home. Do you think that was a bad decision after all we've seen here? Well, it's revealed why it was something that was reasonable. Of all the brilliant and remote locations to hide Luke Skywalker from the monstrous father, Obi-Wan and Yoda send Luke to his murderous father's home planet. Darth Vader hated reminders of his former life as Anakin, so it could be that Obi-Wan and Yoda counted on his hatred of sand to keep him away from Tatooine. But the logic of this, so they just he just refers back to sand, but it's more than that when it came to Tatooine. It was a loss of his mother. It was being enslaved. There were so many factors why he hated Tatooine, not just the sand. But the logic of the situation says otherwise, with the exception of Reva. You're going to the friggin' Disney lore. Fuck that. So we're not going to get into that part. So what do you think? Disney, of course, Disney Star was always known to ruin the established lore to have, that made sense to why Luke was given to his aunt and uncle in safekeeping while Obi-Wan sat on guard and waited to train him. So do you think this was a dumb idea? I don't think it is. I think the person is just not realizing the context behind that. Let's see. Luke was safe on Tatooine. Owen and Beru only died because Luke sent the plans there, but he didn't know about Luke. Just like Vader. Yeah, Luke was safe no matter what because Vader / Anakin thought that he lost his family. Like the death of Padme, the death of the baby. He didn't even know that she was having twins. So how would it make him unsafe to hide him in that place when he doesn't even know there's a child to look for? Hey, Adega Allah, how are you doing? So there we go. And I love it when you guys point out all these stuff. So why do you keep doing that? When I get to Soul Assassins, it doesn't want to highlight. Let's see here. Stop it. Okay. I wonder if the Tuskens have been an exact species if the EU continued because they were dwindled. Oh yeah, I read that one. That's why it says nope. Don't read that one because you already read that one. Tatooine has too many bad memories for Vader, Sand, Tuskens, Greedo. Yeah, all of that. And so this person's not realizing. On top of that, why would Vader know to be looking for a child on Tatooine. Why? Why? Number 8, Kylo Ren killing his own father. No, we're not going to go into that because that was stupid. And I'm not even going to get into the stupidity of Disney lore. Leia letting Poe. Oh, okay, that's another one. And you notice like some of these Disney lore ones are down lower. Like the number 1s was more George Lucas era. So, number 10, Han Solo attempting the Kessel Run in less than 10 parsecs. So are they referring to the Solo movie or just to A New Hope or maybe a little bit of both? So let's find out. Completing the Kessel, and that's not a fucking stupid decision. It's a brash decision, and maybe in a sense it's stupid, like he could have ended his life. Now, if you're looking at the Kessel Run in the original lore, you will know that it is from like it has the mall right next to it. Basically, it has the mall right next to it, and so you have all these anomalies and stuff like that, and that's why people try to get in and out as quickly to not get stuck and pulled in by black holes and all this other stuff. So there's that. So let me see what you guys have to say about that. First of all, Gordon says, I didn't realize that the Empire already had a garrison on Tatooine prior to New Hope. Yeah, they did. They went in. So if you read the Kenobi novel, is it the Dark Lord Rise of Darth Vader? I think it's Rise of Darth Vader. They do it's Kenobi novel. It's a Kenobi novel. The Imperial, the New Old Republic headquarters or a little faction there, garrison there, or whatever you want to call it, was then taken over by the Imperial. So, like shortly after the rise of the Empire. Does that mean that they took over on Tatooine and it was under the Imperial governments? No, not really. There was stuff under the table, basically. Excuse me. I'm telling you, my sinuses are just really rough lately. I need to go take care of them. Trace. Oh, I'm not getting into that. So we're not getting into that. Not getting into that. All right. So that's the end of that. We're just talking about original Star Wars lore. We're not going to get into the Disney lore of that. So what do you think? Do you think the Kessel Run was a huge mistake of Han's? Or do you think that this guy is just talking out of his ass with a lot of these that we read? Not going to discuss the Disney lore portion of this. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and remove this. And let me put my picture back up. There we go. All right, you guys. So let's see here. What's going on? Okay. So it's like the whole thing about changing his last name. The Emperor sensed that the one to destroy the Death Star was Anakin's offspring. Changing the name wouldn't have meant nothing. Would have meant nothing. Yeah. So it doesn't matter on the last name whatsoever. Nothing like that. So I think the lore should have been kept a mystery. Adds more with less. Correct. No, it was perfect. It was perfectly in character for Han to do. Yeah. So he's like, I'm the best pilot. I'm gonna prove myself. If you read the Han Solo trilogy, you would get all the information about the Kessel Run and how he was training to become a better pilot and all this other stuff, and what it meant for him to beat the record of the Kessel Run as a pilot. And it's in his character of pushing himself, and risking even himself sometimes, So that's always been Han's character, even with well into the EU, Let's see here. I don't know the context of the Kessel Run in the Disney canon, so I don't know if it was stupid or not. So we're not really talking about the context of the Kessel Run in the Disney lore. We're talking about in general in the George Lucas era of Star Wars. And I think I'm going to find that clip, and I think I'm going to do an EU short on that for you guys. So you guys are, even if it's not an EU short and it's longer than the short requires it to be a short, I think I'm going to give that to you guys so you guys can have something to look into, and then um, maybe you'll pick up the book. In fact, I never gave the next book fun to read. We went over, in a sense, recommendation was Shadowhunter, Darth Maul Shadowhunter. So let's get into the Han Solo trilogy. So this will go on for about 4 months. So giving a month of like 5 weeks to 4 months, giving a few weeks towards the Han Solo, the beginning of the book here, Paradise Snare, I believe it's called, and then going into the second book and the third book. We might go a little longer. I recommend you guys pick up the trilogy, beginning with the first one, and it gives a lot of great backstory to Han without revealing too much, because I know George still wanted to keep some things about Han a mystery. Not like Yoda, but there's some things that George is like, let's not give too much of. So let's get into that. So Han Solo trilogy within the next few months. Let's get into those books. Whether you pick them up or not, I will still ask, what do you guys think? Keep you guys in lieu of it. Talk a little bit of it on CAF chat to help you guys, or help encourage anyone who wants to pick up the EU to pick up a book and read. So Han Solo trilogy, and Soul Assassin has given that. I was going to recommend something from Legacy of the Force or Legacy era, but no, let's go ahead and kind of like have a variety going on. So Legacy era will be basically the review of that era, beginning with Legacy of the Force. So stay tuned for that. Any type of questions you have regarding Legacy era, starting with Legacy of the Force, please let me know so that maybe I can cover those aspects as well. Because when we make these videos for you guys, these lore videos, sometimes we miss something that we didn't think of, but someone else said, hey, wait a bit, what about this? So when we hear firsthand from you guys something that we may not have thought of, it helps broaden the information given out to everybody. So let me know, and I will ask that question on YouTube community and also on Twitter community. What do you want to see regarding Legacy era, Legacy of the Force being covered? And if I already plan on covering that, then we're on the same page. But if I forgot about something, then that helps me provide more information out to you. Okay. Let's see here. The Disney lore is dumb. So they're not wrong. Laugh out loud. I thought all 15 items were going to be from Lucas era. I thought so too, but then I forgot because I read it late at night. And I forgot towards the end. And it's funny how the number ones were all, the top ones were all George Lucas era. The ones that were not that favored were towards the bottom. That's kind of interesting how that went, right? Very telling. Very, very telling. We all forget stuff and remind each other all the time. Yes, exactly. And that's why I love CAF Chat, because we get to sit and talk about the lore. And if there's something I forgot to add or something that you wanted to hear about or wanted to share, we create a greater conversation, a wider, broad conversation. Okay, let's see here. In 2005, Complete Location Guide, it shows the Imperial Garrison on Tatooine. So it was prior to Kenobi novel. Yes, they probably use that as a resource for that, because the Kenobi novel came out in 2012. And it was dictated by Disney during the purchase to keep it in George Lucas era of Star Wars. All right, you guys, we're going to go ahead and close down now in the stream here. So again, you can find me tomorrow night after 8:05 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Tim's channel on the Spacing. And we're going to get into the source wars. We're going to get into the state of Star Wars and what's going on with all this rumors and stuff about, you know, the coming movies and what's going on. Probably get into other stuff, fun stuff as well. So catch me there. Catch me there. I'm coming straight from teaching. I'm going to jazz myself up real quick, and then I'm going to, you know, hop on. So catch me there tomorrow night on the spacing. It's going to be a great conversation. I know he's recovering from cold, so hopefully he is feeling better today so that he feels much better for tomorrow. So, and then I'm thinking about, once I get into my other series that I'm going to add for my show that I'm proposing at a local art center, I'm thinking about doing some art videos. And I do need to finish up the Boba Fett. My cat Toby just jumped up here. I'm thinking about finally deciding how I'm going to set up Boba Fett's image that I've been working on. I'm trying to decide how to place Slave 1 in there, because I'm not going to use Kamino as his birth planet or his home world. I'm going to just refer to his ship as his home in the series I'm creating. Like with Asajj, I did Ratatat, and then with Voss, I did Kifar and Kifu. So those are the home planets. You know, once I get to like if I ever do Ben Skywalker, he was born on the Errant Venture. So that would be a fun one to do. Have Errant Venture, the red Star Destroyer painted behind him. So I'm doing these series. Those probably won't be displayed because of possible copyright. They would have to be more or less like fan art that's not for sale. If I decide to display them at the art center, that would determine what they are expecting of me as the artist and what, you know, what they will allow or not. You could do in homage of, you know, as a fan, but you can't really sell. So we'll see how that goes. So maybe I'll do some art videos coming up soon, and where we have some conversation. We'll still talk about Star Wars, even if the image is not of Star Wars, and just make it fun. To begin, the Sauce Wars have. That's funny. Yes, and tonight is Raging Rhino's show, so go ahead and catch that as well. I'll probably be in the chat if I remind myself to get on there in time. I do have an appointment that I have to take care of in the evening. So you might see me jump in a little late. Last week I jumped in as the show was ending as well with Knights of Melvin too. Would you all believe that OG wouldn't do my idea of Leia and Alderaan behind her? Do you realize that he's not being honest on, or he actually is, the explosion there? Yeah, he wants me to do Leia with the exploding Alderaan and not just the Alderaan before it exploded. And no, I won't do it. Do it. So there you go. That's so bad. You're so bad. Yeah, so thank you guys again. Catch you guys next week. The video should be coming out here next week on Expanded Lore, beginning with the Legacy era. So thank you guys again for, you know, contributing to that and helping me decide which era to start with. And until we meet again, you guys have a good day, and may the Force be with you.
The fate of the galaxy is now in your hands. With the new LEGO Star Wars Slave 1, you can load Captain Solo, arm your weapon systems, man the cockpit, and take off with the most feared ship in the galaxy. But watch out for rebel ships. No matter the enemy, no matter the firepower, you control the action. With the new LEGO Star Wars collection.
I can always point to two female characters that made a huge impression on me. One would be Leia, the other would be the character of Eowyn from Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. I won't go into that, it's not my franchise, but Lynn will appreciate that I don't. But the idea that Eowyn slew the Witch King, slayed him, blew my mind as a kid. I had to go back and read that chapter several times in a row right there. Because as a young boy, I had never come in contact with that concept. But this woman took out this main terrifying villain.
another happy landing.